April by Charmel Iris. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I loved her more than moon or sun. There is no moon or sun for me. Of lovely things to look upon, the loveliest was she. She does not hear me, though I sing, and all my heart is like to break. The world awakens with the spring, but she does not wake. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
As I'd Nothing Else to Do by Herbert Fry. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. 'Twas a pleasant summer's morning, just the day I like to enjoy, when I woke and looked out early, puzzled how my time to employ. In such fine and splendid weather I don't care for work, do you? So I went to see my sweetheart, as I'd nothing else to do. Oft I started through the meadow, where the dew beads pearled the prey, and responsive to the songbirds I kept singing all the way. Quite surprised she was to see me come so early there to woo, till I said I'd just walked over 'cause I'd nothing else to do. Then we rambled forth together down the lane beneath the trees, while so gentle stirred the shadows of their branches in the breeze. And whenever our conversation languished for a word or two, why, of course, I kindly kissed her, as I'd nothing else to do. But before the day was over I'd somehow made up my mind that I'd pop the question to hear if to me her heart inclined. So I whispered, "Sweet my darling, will you have me, yes or no?" "Well," said she, "perhaps I may, my dear, when I've nothing else to do." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. Read for LibriVox.org by Dean McCollaum. June 25th, 2013. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold, through the parka's fold it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed and the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed, and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me, and "Cap," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess, and if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of moan, "It's the cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet 'tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains." A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail, and we started on at the streak of dawn. But God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee, and before nightfall a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains." Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I loathed the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow, and on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in, and I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. "Then here," said I, with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so, and the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why, and the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, "I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked," and it's time I looked. Then the door I opened wide, and there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm." There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Enchanted Shirt by John Hay. Read for LibriVox.org by Brett Hirsch. Fit the first, wherein it shall be shown how the truth is too mighty a drug for such as be of feeble temper. The king was sick, his cheek was red, and his eye was clear and bright. He ate and drank with a kingly zest, and peacefully snored at night. But he said he was sick, and a king should know, and doctors came by the score. They did not cure him, he cut off their heads, and sent to the schools for more. At last 2 famous doctors came, and one was as poor as a rat. He had passed his life in studious toil, and never found time to grow fat. The other had never looked in a book. His patients gave him no trouble. If they recovered, they paid him well. If they died, their heirs paid double. Together they looked at the royal tongue, as the king on his couch reclined. In succession they thumped his august chest, but no trace of disease could find. The old sage said, "You're as sound as a nut." "Hang him up!" roared the king in a gale. In a 10-knot gale of royal rage, the other leech grew a shade pale. But he pensively rubbed his sagacious nose, and thus his prescription ran. "The king will be well if he sleeps one night in the shirt of a happy man." Fit the second tells of the search for the shirt, and how it was nigh found, but was not, for reasons which are said or sung. Wide o'er the realm the couriers rode, and fast their horses ran, and many they saw, and to many they spoke, but they found no happy man. They found poor men who would fain be rich, and rich who thought they were poor, and men who twisted their waists in stays, and women that short hose wore. They saw two men by the roadside sit, and both bemoaned their lot, for one had buried his wife, he said, and the other one had not. At last they came to a village gate. A beggar lay whistling there. He whistled and sang and laughed and rolled on the grass in the soft June air. The weary couriers paused and looked at the scamp so blithe and gay, and one of them said, "Heaven save you, friend, you seem to be happy today." "Oh, yes, fair sirs," the rascal laughed, and his voice rang free and glad. "An idle man has so much to do that he never has time to be sad." "This is our man," the courier said. "Our luck has led us aright. I will give you 100 ducats, friend, for the loan of your shirt tonight." The merry blackguard lay back on the grass and laughed till his face was black. "I would do it, God wot," and he roared with the fun, "but I haven't a shirt to my back." Fit the third, showing how His Majesty the King came at last to sleep in a happy man his shirt. Each day to the king the reports came in of his unsuccessful spies, and the sad panorama of human woes passed daily under his eyes. And he grew ashamed of his useless life, and his maladies hatched in gloom. He opened his windows and let the air of the free heaven into his room. And out he went in the world and toiled, in his own appointed way, and the people blessed him, the land was glad, and the king was well and gay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Fairest Land by Marietta Hawley. Read for LibriVox.org by Heidi Paek. 'Twas a bleak, dull moor that stretched before the low stone porch of the cottage door. And standing there was youth and maid. He for long journeying seemed arrayed. And the sunset flamed in the burnished west, and a proud throb beat in the young man's breast, as he whispered, "Sweet, will you come to me in that fairer land beyond the sea? The wonderful western land, in dreams I have seen its prairies green, and gleams of its shining waterfalls, valleys fair, and a voice in my dreams has called me there, where man is a man and not a clod, and must bend the knee to none but God. A home will I make for thee and me in that fairer land beyond the sea." But the cruel seas, where the fated ships go down to their doom. But he kissed the lips, the trembling lips, till they smiled again, and his bright hopes cheered her heart's dull pain, and she laid her head on his hopeful breast, and looked with him to the glowing west, and said, I will come to thee, to that fairer land beyond the seas." And the crimson light changed to daffodil, to ashen grey, but they stood there still. And high o'er the west shone the evening star, as still he pictured that home afar. The peace and the bliss our own at last, when this dreary parting all is past. When my heart's dear love, you come to me in that fairer land beyond the sea. So he sailed, but saddest 'tis alway not for those who go, but for those who stay. And her sweet eyes gathered a shadow dim, as days went by with no news of him, and weeks and months. But at last it came, as the grey moor shone with the sunset flame. Her quick eyes glanced the strange lines o'er, then she fell like dead on the cottage floor. 'Twas a stranded ship on a rocky coast, one true heart brave when hope was lost. How he toiled till all the shore had gained, and only a baby form remained on ship. How he breasted the surging tide, with death a-wrestling side by side. How he lifted the child to its mother's knee, as a great wave washed him out to sea. And for days the maid in the cottage door sat and looked o'er the dreary moor. Her cheeks grew white 'neath her blinding tears, and the sunset rays seemed cruel spears that pierced her heart. And ashen grey turned the earth and sky, the night, the day. But at last a star shone high above, the tender star of the heavenly love. For as her life ebbed day by day, the high country, the fair alway, rose for her eyes the safe sweet home, and she seemed to hear, "Love, will you come?" And so one eve, when a bridge of gold seemed spanning the last sea dim and cold, she went to him, for aye to be in the fairest land beyond the sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
If I Could But Forget by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by Titus E. Garnett. If I could but forget the fullness of those first sweet days when you burst sunlight through the haze of unacquaintance on my sight and made that wrecked gray day seem bright, while clouds themselves grew fair to see, and since no day is gray or wet, but all the scenes come back to me. If I could but forget. If I could but forget how your dusk eyes looked into mine, and how I thrilled as with strong wine beneath your touch, while sped amain the quickened stream through every vein. How near my breath failed to grasp, for when the space our fingers met in one electric, vibrant clasp. If I could but forget. If I could but forget the month of passion and of pain, and all that followed in their train. Rebellious thoughts that would arise, rebellious tears that dim mine eyes. The prayer that I might set love afire, aflame within your bosom yet, the death at last of that desire. If I could but forget. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In Memory of a Happy Day in February by Anne Bronte. Read for LibriVox.org by Heidi Paek. I was alone, for those I loved were far away from me. The sun shone on the withered grass. The wind blew fresh and free. Was it the smile of early spring that made my bosom glow? 'Twas sweet, but neither sun nor wind could cheer my spirit so. Was it some feeling of delight, all vague and undefined? No, 'twas a rapture sweet and strong, expanding in the mind. Was it a sanguine view of life and all its transient bliss, a hope of bright prosperity? Oh no, it was not this. It was a glimpse of truth divine, unto my spirit given, illumined by a ray of light that shone direct from heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Judith by Maria Brooks. Read for LibriVox.org by Grant Hurlock. Calm was the hour Bethulia's fertile heights. Rose duskily, night's dome of deepened blue swelled beauteous o'er her countless founts of light, softening their brilliancy with gentle dew. Sad city, thou behold'st with dying hopes, thy mountains mournful in the mellow beams. The stranger's tent conceals their flowery slopes, and hostile hands withhold their plenteous streams. And mourning in thy streets thy children bear, opening the lip blood wet or sorely dry, their burning bosoms, while the moistened air heightens the thirst it cannot satisfy. With even step in mourning garb arrayed, fair Judith walked, and grandeur marked her air, though humble dust in pious sprinklings laid soiled the dark tresses of her copious hair. While to her dwelling's tented top ascends the voice of many a sufferer below, who supplicating at her portal spends his fainting breath in hollow tones of woe. A faithful maiden on the battlement, where pity still impelled her, bending o'er, though her heart bled at every accent learnt, and wept the woes she could not soften more. With cheek unstained by unavailing tears, Judith beheld, her noble heart was wrung, yet pensively serene her brow appears, and wisdom's words flow sweetened by her tongue. Sapphira, weep no more, thou gentle maid, but once again their piercing griefs allay. To all alike be bountiful, she said, as far as with our wasted means we may. When thou art pleased, dear lady, to command, 'tis not for me to utter weak replies, yet I entreat thee close thy bounteous hand. All that we now have left would scarce suffice, to each a scanty draught tomorrow's noon, with scorching breath shall tell thy throbbing veins. The last thick drop from every cistern's gone, save that which still thy beauteous boy sustains. But for a hope, sure 'tis a hope from heaven, to keep our altars from pollution free. All save for him alone, ere now were given, and we had shared the general misery. Then if our prayers and sufferings could not move the Lord to look in mercy from his throne, our uncomplaining patience we would prove, and die the general trespass to atone. Would die? Alas, 'twill not be ours to die, when the vile heathen ope our temple's doors. How many a wronged and wretched one will sigh, in her life-blood to wash its holy floors, if succor come not ere 5 days are o'er. This morn our elders yielded the decree, sad children of captivity once more, we crouch before the impious enemy. But haste thee to thy task of charity, do all thou canst, and bid them not complain, she said, and bent in humbleness the knee, until the attentive maid returned again. Then thus resumed, prepare the rich array, which in my days of joyfulness I wore. This evening's moon must light me on the way, to bring you blessed relief, or come no more. With one weak virgin through Bethulia's vale, I go to seek the Assyrian chief tonight, through lawless hordes that trust in spear and mail, wild with success and glorying in their might. Armed in compassion and in faith I dare the threatening horrors of that dangerous way, nor trust to purchase shameful safety there, the coloring and structure of my clay. These limbs have ne'er in soft allurement moved, this face could never smile with siren art. My honored lord in his uprightness loved, nor needed more to fix his constant heart. I know thy love would every peril brave, and well would wish to bid thee follow me. But may thy care, so true and tender, save my boy, that dearer one remains with thee. O my Sapphira, if these towers must fall, if naught avails, and ye are captive led, teach his young heart to know the Lord of all, and tell him in what cause his mother bled. But much is to be done, the evening wends, my ripened purpose may not brook delay, she said, and with Sapphira mild descends, to cast her robes of widowhood away. Now all the needful preparation done, her handmaid waits the moment to depart, but in sweet slumber rests her little son, and all the mother struggles at her heart. He will be safe, she said, or should he not? His life is heaven's, be it what it may. Thus spake religion, but the tender thought evades its power. She sought him as he lay, softly supine his rosy limbs reposed, his locks curled high, leaving the forehead bare, and o'er his eyes the light lids gently closed, as they had feared to hide the brilliance there. She kissed his fragrant lips, and that high soul had melted, but Sapphira's bursting sigh recalled her slumbering wisdom to control the tear that almost trembled in her eye. Now to Bethulia's gate the intrepid dame, where the chief elders of the city stand, attended by one trembling follower came. Bethulia's gate was oped at her command, for though her purpose was but known in part, from earliest childhood not a breath had soiled the fairness of her fame. Detraction's dart from that bright crystal rock fell ever foiled, and all in wonder of her beauty stood, to see her on the mountain path's descent. They knew, whatever her intent, 'twas good, and raised the hand and blessed her as she went. Soon with still step she treads the vale of dew, where its clear founts in mournful murmurs play, and the first watch of the Assyrian crew beholds and intercepts her on the way. Whence art thou come, and whither doest thou go? Behold a Hebrew woman. I have come from yon devoted city, for I know my nation must be given you to consume. Where is your warlike leader? To declare alone to him a tale of truth I fled. Soon may you win our hills and valleys fair, nor shall a single drop of blood be shed. So hast thou saved thy life, and bravely done. Go to his presence, fearlessly and free. Declare thy purpose, never yet was known our Lord to scorn a messenger like thee. Quick to conduct the beauty to his tent, 100 ready warriors they chose, while to the chief a favorite youth was sent, of flowing speech to lure him from repose. In languid posture the proud victor lay, gem-broidered, purple canopied his bed. Soft pleasure's breath had warmed th' inactive day, but light-winged slumber fluttered o'er his head. When thus the youth, rise, mighty conqueror, rise, for more than thou canst dream of beauty bright is blooming for thee. Hero, ope thine eyes. O sun, the loveliest moon is suing for thy light. He slowly raised him at the gentle sound. Surpassing fair, Bagoas dost thou say? Fairer than pearls, the like cannot be found. From help me then to rise, slaves lead the way. All unadjusted from his couch he rose, while borne before him lamps of silver flame, as 'twere alike or beauty or repose. With leisure step indifferent he came. So many bowed beneath his conquering arms, so many lovely captives wait his sigh. Unmoved he wanders through a world of charms, and scarcely raises his fastidious eye. And well he deemed that now some tender maid, while thousand fears her hapless bosom shook, her timid charms, her all that's left displayed, supremely happy if he deigned to look. But firm at his approach the stately dame stood like a graceful column, and with cheek crimsoned by scorn when near the pagan came, she slowly fell before him, proudly meek. Silent he stood a moment with surprise, his every movement, every look was fraught. Then whatsoe'er thy purpose, lady, rise, declare to me thy nation, fear thou naught. Judith arose and uttered the deceit, her soul disclaimed the while in accents free. Her rounded tones flow from her lips as sweet and fragrant as the drops of Carmel's bee. O thou most excellent of all the earth, alike in wisdom as in war renowned, receive thy handmaiden of Hebrew birth, so shall thine efforts with success be crowned. My nation trusteth in her God alone, nor sword nor spear against her can prevail, but for their sins her children must atone. Death's on the watch, and all their succors fail. The first fair ears that crown the gilded field, the first ripe clusters of the curling vine, the first rich streams our teeming olives yield, are food forbidden by a law divine. Those holy fruits reserved and sanctified, 'tis sacrilege to touch with hands profane, but their impatient wants must be supplied, and daring all, they will not long abstain. By the great God I've ever served, their fate is given me to know in secret thought, nor might I there its consummation wait, but to declare it all thy presence sought. I will remain, and every night intent, go out to pray beside a lonely stream, and when their crimes are ripe for punishment, it will be told me in a holy dream. Soon as with duteous haste I make it known, follow me, warrior, the way I'll lead, till in Jerusalem thou set'st thy throne, not e'en an insect's voice shall wake the mead. Her mellow accents ceased, but at his heart sweetly reverberates their magic sound. From his dark eyes his wild emotions dart, and thus his tongue impetuous utterance found. Thou mine of wisdom, gem of light divine, do as thou soul directs thee, thou art free. All once performed, the God thou serv'st is mine, well may he be adored for forming thee. So pondering on her purpose Judith stayed within her tent while 3 days lent their light, and thence with fervency went out and prayed, and bathed her in a lucid stream by night. Now on the 4th th' impatient victor spread a sumptuous feast the moments to beguile, that all around with drooping pinions tread, and pant to sport in the fair Hebrew's smile. Bagoas, linger not, allure her here, he said, with fairest promise I can find no joy but in her presence. Ah, I fear, is the eye loveless when the heart is kind? His lord's companion in the lingering hour well knew the youth to feed hope's flickering flame, and flowing from his lip of ready power, as quick as thought the soothing answer came. Smiles still had blessed thee, conqueror, but she knew in too much sun the plant will languid prove, and all those looks of coldness are but dew, foam to refresh the roses of thy love. Why doubts, my lord, mayst thou not find as fair, deep in Judea's vales, what flowers must glow? Full soon thy love in thankfulness she'll share, frown not e'en now to make thee blessed I go. In expectation sat the noble dame, for well she knew th' eventful hour drew nigh, and rose and decked her when the summons came, with every pleasing art to lure the eye. Long was the feast, the shades of night were up, but countless lamps a noonlight splendor shed. The thoughtless pagans ply the glittering cup, and pleasure silenced every thought of dread. Near the enamored chief with wine elate, her hair, save what composed the plaited wreath, in glossy waves descending, Judith sat, on skins of silky softness spread beneath. Above her forehead, fair, mid many a tress, her graceful head a bright tiara wore, yet seemed so much was there of loftiness, as it disdained the ornaments it bore, while holy scorn and detestation high, oft as the treacherous stream she bows to sip, fires the bright convex of her jetty eye, and curls the living vermeil of her lip. The chief beheld her heightened beauty's glow, and his devoted temples ached to rest, temples which oft dark ire's suffusion show on the smooth arch of her majestic breast. Her soul recoiled o'er all the gorgeous place, profusion fed luxurious revelry. A little distant her afflicted race have naught to drink but tears of agony, but the blessed thought to see them all repose on plenty's couch, their wounded souls to cure, to drown in the impious tyrant's blood their woes, gave renovated patience to endure. The revellers are gone, the banquet's o'er, and every weary slave to rest has sped. Bagoas but remains to close the door, and lead the inebriate warrior to his bed. Ere he departs, Judith with prudent care commands her maid to wait her coming forth, to seek the fountain at the hour of prayer, and stayed nor seemed at his entreaty loath. Scarcely the chief his silken pillow pressed, before his towering form reposed supine. The fair so warmly wished his presence blessed, but love lay senseless in a sea of wine. Watchful Bagoas, thou too wert in bed, the Hebrew with thy lord was left alone, and in the lamp beam gleaming o'er his head, with fatal light his glittering falchion shone. So his dread folds embraced the sated snake, in his own den's fell depths unfearing lies. O for thine own, thy suffering people's sake, my God, nerve thou this arm, and end my enterprise, she said, and wreathed her fingers in his hair. Then his last breath the proud oppressor drew, the blade her right hand wielded high in air. Descends, his neck was bare, her hand was true. Mid the warm gush she smote him yet again, and when the quivering visage severed lay, wiped from her ivory arms the steaming stain, and took the costly canopy away. Then wrapping carefully the streaming head, lest crimson traces might declare the tale, gave them in silence to her trembling maid, and as accustomed nightly sought the veil. Silent they left the fountain's margin damp, no watch interrogates the favored dame. Saw from Bethulia's mount the fated camp, and near the gates of the loved city came. Then Judith's voice awoke the silent night. Descend, O watch, and praise the great divine. Weeping Judea, arm thee in his might. Arise, arise, the enemy is thine. Soon as that voice, in accents softly loud, proclaimed 'twas Judith, who her kindred sought, with beating hearts around the gate they crowd, and light a flame to see what she had brought. Behold, she cries, proud Holofernes' head, ta'en by my hand, as in his wine he slept. Behold this canopy, it decked his bed, yet by my God, from every stain I'm kept. Now every one that bears a sword or spear, for a great battle get ye in array. Soon as the morn's first glimmerings appear, high on the mountain make a brave display. Then the Assyrians, seeing from the plain, to seek their leader in his tent will haste, and pale with fear behold the slayer slain, headless and in his own vile gore debased. While yet the sight congeals their pampered blood, rush on them all in their confusion smite, nor rest nor respite till the impious brood lie like plucked grapes in heaps before your sight. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lady of Shalott by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Read for LibriVox.org by J. Grace Pennington. www.jgracepennington.com. On either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye, that clothe the wold and meet the sky, and through the field the road runs by, to many-towered Camelot. And up and down the people go, gazing where the lilies blow, round an island there below, the island of Shalott. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver, through the wave that runs for ever by the island in the river, flowing down to Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers, and the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. By the margin willow-veiled slide the heavy barges trailed by slow horses and unhailed. The shallop flitteth silken-sailed, skimming down to Camelot. But who hath seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand, or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shalott? Only reapers reaping early, in among the bearded barley, hear a song that echoes cheerly from the river winding clearly down to towered Camelot. And by the moon the reaper weary, piling sheaves in uplands airy, listening whispers, "'Tis the fairy Lady of Shalott." There she weaves by night and day a magic web with colours gay. She has heard a whisper say, a curse is on her if she stay to look down to Camelot. She knows not what the curse may be, and so she weaveth steadily, and little other care hath she, the Lady of Shalott. And moving through a mirror clear that hangs before her all the year, shadows of the world appear. There she sees the highway near, winding down to Camelot. There the river eddy whirls, and there the surly village churls, and the red cloaks of market girls pass onward from Shalott. Sometimes a troop of damsels glad, an abbot on an ambling pad, sometimes a curly shepherd lad, or long-haired page in crimson clad, goes by to towered Camelot. And sometimes through the mirror blue the knights come riding, 2 and 2. She hath no loyal knight and true, the Lady of Shalott. But in her web she still delights to weave the mirror's magic sights, for often through the silent nights a funeral with plumes and lights and music went to Camelot. Or when the moon was overhead came 2 young lovers lately wed. I am half sick of shadows, said the Lady of Shalott. A bowshot from her bower eaves he rode between the barley sheaves. The sun came dazzling through the leaves and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir Lancelot. A red-cross knight for ever kneeled to a lady in a shield that sparkled on the yellow field beside remote Shalott. The gemmy bridle glittered free like to some branch of stars we see, hung in the golden galaxy. The bridle bells rung merrily as he rode down to Camelot. And from his blazoned baldric slung a mighty silver bugle hung, and as he rode his armour rung beside remote Shalott. All in the blue unclouded weather, thick jewelled shone the saddle leather. The helmet and the helmet feather burned like one burning flame together as he rode down to Camelot. As often through the purple night, below the starry clusters bright, some bearded meteor trailing light moves over still Shalott. His broad clear brow in sunlight glowed, on burnished hooves his war-horse trode. From underneath his helmet flowed his coal-black curls as on he rode down to Camelot. From the bank and from the river he flashed into the crystal mirror. "Tira, lira, by the river," sang Sir Lancelot. She left the web, she left the loom, she made 3 paces through the room. She saw the water-lily bloom, she saw the helmet and the plume. She looked down to Camelot. Out flew the web and floated wide, the mirror cracked from side to side. "The curse has come upon me," cried the Lady of Shalott. In the stormy east wind straining, the pale yellow woods were waning, the broad stream in his banks complaining, heavily the low sky raining over towered Camelot. Down she came and found a boat beneath a willow left afloat, and round about the prow she wrote, "The Lady of Shalott." And down the river's dim expanse, like some bold seer in a trance, seeing all his own mischance, with a glassy countenance, did she look to Camelot. And at the closing of the day she loosed the chain, and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shalott. lying robed in snowy white that loosely flew to left and right, the leaves upon her falling light, through the noises of the night, she floated down to Camelot. And as the boat-head wound along the willowy hills and fields among, they heard her singing her last song, the Lady of Shalott. Heard a carol mournful, holy, chanted loudly, chanted lowly, till her blood was frozen slowly, and her eyes were darkened wholly, turned to towered Camelot. For ere she reached upon the tide the first house by the water side, singing in her song, she died, the Lady of Shalott. Under tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a gleaming shape she floated by, dead pale between the houses high, silent into Camelot. Out upon the wharfs they came, knight and burgher, lord and dame, and round the prow they read her name, the Lady of Shalott. Who is this, and what is here? And in the lighted palace near died the sound of royal cheer, and they crossed themselves for fear, all the knights at Camelot. But Lancelot mused a little space. He said, she has a lovely face. God in his mercy lend her grace, the Lady of Shalott. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lament of Baba Tahir, rendered into English verse by Elizabeth Curtis Brenton. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy, Perth, Western Australia. I am a nomad, a fanatic tramp. Life has no ties for such an idle scamp. Aimless by day I wander, and at night a stone's my pillow, and the moon my lamp. By day and at night the desert is my home, my tent the friendly heaven's spreading dome. Nor pain nor fever rack me, but I know that night and day I sorrow as I roam. The roses bloom upon the breast of spring, from every bough 1,000 bulbuls sing. But earth contains no pleasure ground for me, a burning heart to every joy I bring. Thy pictured beauty, love, ne'er leaves my heart, thy downy cheek becomes of me a part. Tightly I'll close mine eyes, O love, that so my life before thine image shall depart. Out hunting when a falcon once I went, sudden an arrow through my wing was sent. Be warned, O heedless wanderer, by me against the height the strongest bows are bent. Without thee in the garden, Lord, I know the sweetly perfumed roses cannot grow, nor tears of grief, although the lips should smile, be washed away in joy's bright overflow. I am beset by cruel tyranny, my heart remembers all mine eyes must see. Old-fashioned straight, a pointed sword of steel, pull out mine eyes, and set my poor heart free. O thou who dost possess no less, no more, of heavenly knowledge than of tavern lore, and that is nothing! Oh, canst thou expect aught from a world thou never wouldst explore? A lion or a tiger thou mightst be, ever, O heart, at war with me. Fall but into my hands, I'll spill thy blood, that I may then know what to make of thee. Love, since my day, by reason of thy flight, is also dark, O come, illume my night. By those fair curves that are thy brows, I swear grief only shares my bed in my despite. Prince, through my heart I am affliction's prey, it is the same all night and all the day, I often grieve that I should grieve so much. O someone, take my graceless heart away. O love, in purple thou dost bid me go, grief, like an extra garment, waits me low. Yet will I boast thee as dawn boasts the sun, till Israfil the final trump shall blow. I am the phoenix, of such great renown, the beating of my wings inflames the town. If one should paint me on a house wall, why, that luckless house would straightway be burned down. That phrase, yes, he is God, it troubles me. My sins are like the leaves upon a tree. Oh, when the readers read the book of doom, what must my shame with such a record be? Alas, how long then must I sorrow so? Bereft of all, my tears unceasing flow. Turned from each threshold, I will turn to thee, and if thou fail'st me, whither shall I go? Strung with thy hair, O love, my rebub gleams. How far from thee my degradation seems. Thou lov'st me not, and wouldst not be my love, then wherefore comest thou to me in dreams? Comest thou? My welcome thou shalt not contemn. Come not, and whom my bitter grief shall stem? Give them to me, and of thy woes I'll die, or be consumed, or I'll put up with them. A moment's space to seek my love I ran. Hurry not so, for God's sake, camel man. She holds my heart a prisoner, and through love I'm but a laggard in life's caravan. Though we be drunk, our faith is all in thee. Weak and unstable, still our faith's in thee. Guebres, or Nazarenes, or Mussulmans, whate'er our creed, our faith is thine and thee. Happy is he who's nigh to thee in heart, who from thy teachings never need depart. Too feeble to approach thee, I can still consort with those who know thee as thou art. Come, ye initiates, let no one fail. Form we a circle and our woes bewail. Bring scales, and our fanaticism weigh, the most ecstatic most shall tip the scale. The sea within a cup, this is my gauge, the dotted letter that completes the page. One in a million's such a man as I'm the bright exemplar of my age. Sweeter than hyacinth to me is borne the breeze that sighing from thy curls is torn. All night, when I have pressed thy picture close, the scent of roses fills my couch at dawn. Ah, when will health to my sick heart return? The good advice I give, it does but spurn. Flung to the winds, 'twill not be borne away, cast in the flames, alas, it will not burn. What flame-singed moths as blundering as I? On such a madman who would waste a sigh? Even the ants and serpents have their nests, but I have not a ruin where to lie. For love of thee my heart is filled with woe, my couch the earth, my pillow is as low. My only sin is loving thee too well, surely not all thy lovers suffer so? Spare me the sight of thy dishevelled hair, the sight of tears in those thine eyes most fair. Thou wouldst deprive me of the sun, thy love, oh plunge me not too soon in night's despair. When thou art absent, sorrow dims my sight, my tree of hope is barren of delight, and I, when thou art absent, all alone sit, and shall sit, until my soul takes flight. Without thee is my heart in mourning clad, show but thy face, and straightway I am glad. If all men had a share in my heart's grief, no heart in all the world but would be sad. Naught can the meadows of my fancy show, save only grief's sad coloured rose in blow. From my poor heart, 'tis such an arid waste, even despair's pale herbage will not grow. The lover and the loved are so much one, each endeth where the other is begun. My heart with my beloved's little heart is interwove like fabric closest spun. I'm a green log fresh cut from off the tree. O heart of stone, thou burnest not for me. Though who, indeed, expects a stone to burn? but I must smoulder till I kindle thee. My heart is nigh distraught with love's emprise, tears gush in torrents from my throbbing eyes. A lover's heart is like a fresh hewn log, one end sheds sap, flames from the other rise. By him who knoweth grief, may grief be told, just as the expert can divine pure gold. And who but an initiate shall gain the knowledge his initiations hold? The heart of man, you say, is prone to sin. Oh yes, but did not first the eyes begin? If on the tempting face they did not look, the heart, unknowing, would be pure within. O thou whose eyes are shadowy with kohl, O thou whose slender figure works my dole, whose looks with musk are laden, art thou dumb, that thus with silence thou shouldst rend my soul? O thou hast caused 1,000 hearts deep pain, more than 1,000 sigh for thee in vain. I've counted more than 1,000 scars of thine inflicting, and yet more remain. The mountain tulip lasts but 7 days, the river violet lives but 7 days, and I will cry the news from town to town that rosy cheeks keep faith but 7 days. When trees to grow beyond their boundaries dare, they cause their gardeners much anxious care. Down to their very roots they must be pruned, though pearls and rubies be the fruits they bear. Blessed are the friends of God, oh blessed are they whose task is ever "He is God" to say. Happy are they who always are at prayers, for heaven rewards them at the final day. Whom fearest thou, of man who makest light? Whom fearest thou, who puttest him to flight? Half-hearted as I am, yet I fear none. Whom fearest thou, O double heart of might? What though my jar of life be filled with tears? When I am dead, released from all my fears, thy passing o'er my grave will bring me back to claim again the bounty of my years. Thy curly locks in tangled masses fall about thy rosy cheeks that hold me thrall. On every separate strand of thy soft hair there hangs a heart upon them all. Like a sad sounding flute, O plaintively my heart laments. The fear of losing thee will haunt my soul till resurrection day, and God alone knows when that day will be. Love to be sweetest, love returned must be, or else the lover's heart grows sick, you see. Take Majnun, he was desperately in love, but Layla even more in love than he. Such storms descend upon me from the skies, that salt tears ever sparkle in mine eyes. The smoke of my lament goes up to heaven, for ever for my tears my groans arise. Only from grief, that prevalent disease, an alchemist could free us, should he please. Yet comes at last a remedy for all, the heart returns to nothing, and finds ease. Beset with thorns and thistles is thy road, yet up to heaven's gate such seed is sowed. If thou canst leave thy flesh upon these thorns, leave it, and travel with a lighter load. I am but a taper weeping from the flame. Are not the tears of burning hearts the same? All night I burn, and all day long I weep. For days and nights like this thou art to blame. Oh, evil fate that I should have to die! But what is fate when destinies awry? A briar in love's path, then let my thorns tear out my heart, that I may cease to sigh. What would it matter if but one small grief were mine? But oh, my wounds are past belief! A doctor or my love to share my couch, ah, only one of these could bring relief. My heart is fragile, like my glass, and I fear lest I break it when I heave a sigh. A tree whose tears are blood, is this so strange? when in a pool of blood my roots must lie? I pray thy sun-like face may never lack the shafts that split my heart in swift attack. Why is the mole upon thy cheek so dark? Objects so near the sun become burnt black. I go, I leave the world, I journey far beyond where even China's limits are, and going, ask of pilgrims whom I meet, is this the end? Is this the outmost star? O thou, who didst create the earth, the sky, how have we served thee save to curse, deny? Now, by the faith of thy beloved 12, preserve us, Lord, we are not fit to die. My heart and soul are thine, O lovely one, my secrets are thy treasure, lovely one. I know not, truly, whence my sorrow comes, but know that thou canst heal it, lovely one. Where art thou, love? Where is the burning spell of those cold shaded eyes? O love, I dwell on earth but little longer. Tahir dies. Where art thou at this moment of farewell? Elizabeth Curtis Brenton. New Milford, Connecticut, USA, April 1901. End of the Lament of Baba Tahir. This recording is in the public domain.
Life by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by Titus E. Garnett. A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile and an hour to weep in, a pint of joy to a peck of trouble, and never a laugh, but the moan comes double, and that is life. A crust and a corner that love makes precious, with a smile to warm and the tears to refresh us. And joy seems sweeter when cares come after, and a moan is the finest of foils for laughter, and that is life. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love Song by Harriet Monroe. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I love my life, but not too well to give it to thee like a flower, so it may pleasure thee to dwell deep in its perfume but an hour. I love my life, but not too well. I love my life, but not too well to sing it note by note away, so to thy soul the song may tell the beauty of the desolate day. I love my life, but not too well. I love my life, but not too well to cast it like a cloak on thine, against the storms that sound and swell between thy lonely heart and mine. I love my life, but not too well. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lycidas by John Milton. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Abe Nemon. Lycidas by John Milton. In this monody, the author bewails a learned friend, unfortunately drowned in his passage from Chester on the Irish seas, 1637, and, by occasion, foretells the ruin of our corrupted clergy, then in their height. Yet once more, O ye laurels, and once more, ye myrtles brown, with ivy never sere, I come to pluck your berries, harsh and crude, and with forced fingers rude, shatter your leaves before the mellowing year. Bitter constraint and sad occasion dear compels me to disturb your season due. For Lycidas is dead, dead ere his prime, young Lycidas, and hath not left his peer. Who would not sing for Lycidas? He knew himself to sing, and build the lofty rhyme. He must not float upon his watery bier unwept, and welter to the parching wind, without the meed of some melodious tear. Begin then, sisters of the sacred well, that from beneath the seat of Jove doth spring. Begin, and somewhat loudly sweep the string. Hence, with denial vain and coy excuse, so may some gentle muse with lucky words favor my destined urn, and as he passes turn, and bid fair peace be to my sable shroud. For we were nursed upon the self-same hill, fed the same flock by fountain, shade, and rill. Together both, ere the high lawns appeared under the opening eyelids of the morn, we drove afield, and both together heard what time the greyfly winds her sultry horn, battening our flocks with the fresh dews of night, oft till the star that rose at evening bright towards heaven's descent had sloped his westering wheel. Meanwhile the rural ditties were not mute, tempered to the oaten flute. Rough satyrs danced, and fawns with cloven heel from the glad sound would not be absent long, and old Demetus loved to hear our song. But oh, the heavy change! Now thou art gone, and never must return. Thee, shepherd, thee the woods and desert caves, with wild thyme and gadding vine o'ergrown, and all their echoes mourn. The willows and the hazel copses green shall now no more be seen, fanning their joyous leaves to thy soft lays. As killing, as the canker to the rose, or taintworm to the weanling herds that graze, or frost to flowers that their gay wardrobe wear, when first the whitethorn blows, such, Lycidas, thy loss to shepherd's ear. Where were ye, nymphs, when the remorseless deep closed o'er the head of your loved Lycidas? For neither were ye playing on the steep, where your old bards the famous Druids lie, nor on the shaggy top of Mona high, nor yet where Diva spreads her wizard stream. Ay me, I fondly dream, had ye been there. For what could that have done? What could the Muse herself that Orpheus bore, the Muse herself for her enchanting son, whom universal nature did lament, when, by the rout that made the hideous roar, his gory visage down the stream was sent, down the swift Hebrus to the Lesbian shore? Alas! What boots it with incessant care to tend the homely, slighted shepherd's trade, and strictly meditate the thankless Muse? Were it not better done, as others use, to sport with Amaryllis in the shade, or with the tangles of Neaera's hair? Fame is the spur that the clear spirit doth raise, that last infirmity of the noble mind, to scorn delights and live laborious days. But the fair guerdon, when we hope to find, and think to burst out into sudden blaze, comes the blind fury with the abhorred shears, and slits the thin-spun life. But not the praise, Phoebus replied, and touched my trembling ears. Fame is no plant that grows on mortal soil, nor in the glistering foil set off to the world, nor in broad rumor lies, but lives and spreads aloft by those pure eyes, and perfect witness of all judging Jove. As he pronounces lastly on each deed, of so much fame in heaven expect thy meed. O fountain Arethusa, and thou honored flood, smooth sliding Mincius, crowned with vocal reeds, that strain I heard was of a higher mood. But now my oat proceeds and listens to the herald of the sea, that came in Neptune's plea. He asked the waves and asked the felon winds, what hard mishap hath doomed this gentle swain? And questioned every gust of rugged wings that blows off from each beaked promontory. They knew not his story. And sage Hippotades their answer brings, that not a blast was from his dungeon strayed. The air was calm, and on the level brine sleek Panope with all her sisters played. It was that fatal and perfidious bark, built in the eclipse and rigged with curses dark, that sunk so low that sacred head of thine. Next, Camus, reverend sire, went footing slow, his mantle hairy and his bonnet sedge, inwrought with figures dim, and on the edge, like to that sanguine flower inscribed with woe. Ah, who hath reft, quoth he, my dearest pledge? Last came, and last did go, the pilot of the Galilean lake. 2 massy keys he bore of metals twain, the golden opes, the iron shuts amain. He shook his metered locks, and stern bespake, how well could I have spared for thee, young swain, and know of such as, for their belly's sake, creep and intrude and climb into the fold. Of other care they little reckoning make, than how to scramble at the shearer's feast, and shove away the worthy bidden guest. Blind mouths, that scarce themselves know how to hold a sheep-hook, or have learned aught else the least that to the faithful herdman's art belongs. What recks it them? What need they? They are sped, and when they list, their lean and flashy songs grate on their scrannel pipes of wretched straw. The hungry sheep look up and are not fed, but swollen with wind and the rank mist they draw, rot inwardly, and foul contagion spread. Besides, what the grim wolf with privy paw daily devours apace and nothing said, but that 2-handed engine at the door stands ready to smite once and smite no more. Return, Alpheus, the dread voice is past that shrunk thy streams. Return, Sicilian muse, and call the vales, and bid them hither cast their bells and flowerets of 1,000 hues. Ye valleys low, where the mild whispers use of shades and wanton winds and gushing brooks, on whose fresh lap the swart star sparely looks, throw hither all your quaint enamelled eyes, that on the green turf suck the honeyed showers, and purple all the ground with vernal flowers. Bring the wraith primrose that forsaken dies, the tufted croto and pale jessamine, the white pink and the pansy freaked with jet, the glowing violet, the musk rose, and the well-attired woodbine, with cowslips wan that hang the pensive head, and every flower that sad embroidery wears. Bid Amaranthus all his beauty shed, and daffodillies fill their cups with tears, to strew the laureate hearse where Lycidas lies. For so, to interpose a little ease, let our frail thoughts dally with false surmise. Ay me, whilst thee the shores and sounding seas wash far away, where'er thy bones are hurled, whether beyond the stormy Hebrides, where thou perhaps under the whelming tide visitest the bottom of the monstrous world, or whether thou, to our moist vows denied, sleepest by the fable of Bellerus old, where the great vision of the guarded mount looks toward Namancos and Bayona's hold. Look homeward, angel, now, and melt with ruth, and, O ye dolphins, waft the hapless youth. Weep no more, woeful shepherds, weep no more. For Lycidas, your sorrow, is not dead, sunk though he be beneath the watery floor. So sinks the day star in the ocean bed, and yet anon repairs his drooping head, and tricks his beams, and with new spangled ore flames in the forehead of the morning sky. So Lycidas sunk low, but mounted high, through the dear might of him that walked the waves, where, other groves and other streams along, with nectar pure his oozy locks he laves, and hears the unexpressive nuptial song, in the blest kingdoms meek of joy and love. There entertain him all the saints above, in solemn troops and sweet societies that sing, and singing in their glory move, and wiped the tears forever from his eyes. Now, Lycidas, the shepherds weep no more. Henceforth thou art the genius of the shore, in thy large recompense, and shalt be good to all that wander in that perilous flood. Thus sang the uncouth swain to the oaks and rills, while the still morn went out with sandals grey. He touched the tender stops of various quills, with eager thought warbling his Doric lay. And now the sun had stretched out all the hills, and now was dropped into the western bay. At last he rose, and twitched his mantle blue, tomorrow to fresh woods and pastures new. End of Lycidas by John Milton. This recording is in the public domain. Read by Abe Nemon.
The Mystery of Gilgal by John Hay. Read for LibriVox.org by Brett Hirsch. The darkest, strangest mystery I ever read, or hear nor see, is long of a drink at Taggart's Hall, Tom Taggart's of Gilgal. I've hearn the tale 1,000 ways, but never could get through the maze that hangs around that queer day's doings. But I'll tell the yarn to you. Tom Taggart stood behind his bar. The time was fall, the skies was far. The neighbors round the counter drawed, and calmly drinked and jawed. At last come Colonel Blood of Paek, and old Judge Finn, promiscuous-like, and each as he meandered in, remarked, "A whiskey skin." Tom mixed the beverage full and far, and slammed it smoking on the bar. Some says 3 fingers, some says 2. I'll leave the choice to you. Finn to the drink put forth his hand, but drawed his knife with accent bland. "I ax your parding, Mr. Finn, jest drap that whiskey skin." No man high-toneder could be found than old Judge Finn, the country round. Says he, young man, the tribe of Finns knows their own whiskey skins. He went for his 11-inch bowie knife. I tries to foller a Christian life, but I'll drap a slice of liver or 2, my bloomin' shrub, with you. They carved in a way that all admired, till blood drawed iron at last and fired. It took Seth Bloodsoe twixt the eyes, which caused him great surprise. Then coats went off and all went in. Shots and bad language swelled the din. The short, sharp bark of derringers, like bullpups, cheered the first. They piled the stiffs outside the door. They made, I reckon, a quart or more. Girls went that winter, as a rule, alone to spellin' school. I've searched in vain from Dan to Beersheba to make this mystery clear, but I end with hit, as I did begin. Who got the whiskey skin? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Old by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by Titus E. Garnett. I have seen people come and go, unlike the ocean ebb and flow. I have seen kingdoms rise and fall, like springtime shadows on a wall. I have seen houses rendered great that grew from life's debased estate, and all is change I see. So dearest God, take me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Patterns by Amy Lowell. Read for LibriVox.org by Heidi Paek. I walk down the garden paths, and all the daffodils are blowing, and the bright blue squills. I walk down the patterned garden paths in my stiff brocaded gown. With my powdered hair and jeweled fan, I too am a rare pattern as I wander down the garden paths. My dress is richly figured, and the train makes a pink and silver stain on the gravel and the thrift of the borders. Just a plate of current fashion tripping by in high-heeled, ribboned shoes. Not a softness anywhere about me, only whalebone and brocade. And I sink on a seat in the shade of a lime tree, for my passion wars against the stiff brocade. The daffodils and squills flutter in the breeze as they please, and I weep, for the lime tree is in blossom, and one small flower has dropped upon my bosom. And the splashing of water drops in the marble fountain comes down the garden paths. The dripping never stops. Underneath my stiffened gown is the softness of a woman bathing in a marble basin, a basin in the midst of hedges grown so thick she cannot see her lover hiding, but she guesses he is near, and the sliding of the water seems the stroking of a dear hand upon her. What is summer in a fine brocaded gown? I should like to see it lying in a heap upon the ground, all the pink and silver crumpled up on the ground. I would be the pink and silver as I ran along the paths, and he would stumble after, bewildered by my laughter. I should see the sun flashing from his sword hilt and the buckles on his shoes. I would choose to lead him in a maze along the patterned paths, a bright and laughing maze for my heavy-booted lover, till he caught me in the shade, and the buttons of his waistcoat bruised my body as he clasped me, aching, melting, unafraid. With the shadows of the leaves and the sun-drops, and the plopping of the water-drops all about us in the open afternoon, I am very like to swoon with the weight of this brocade, for the sun sifts through the shade. Underneath the fallen blossom in my bosom is a letter I have hid. It was brought to me this morning by a rider from the Duke. Madam, we regret to inform you that Lord Hartwell died in action Thursday se'nnight. As I read it in the white morning sunlight, the letters squirmed like snakes. "Any answer, madam?" said my footman. "No," I told him. "See that the messenger takes some refreshment. No answer." And I walked into the garden, up and down the patterned paths in my stiff, correct brocade. The blue and yellow flowers stood up proudly in the sun, each one. I stood upright too, held rigid to the pattern by the stiffness of my gown. Up and down I walked, up and down. In a month he would have been my husband. In a month, here, underneath this lime, we would have broke the pattern, he for me, and I for him, he as colonel, I as lady, on this shady seat. He had a whim that sunlight carried blessing, and I answered, "It shall be as you have said." Now he is dead. In summer and in winter I shall walk up and down the patterned garden paths in my stiff brocaded gown. The squills and daffodils will give place to pillared roses, and to asters, and to snow. I shall go up and down in my gown, gorgeously arrayed, boned and stayed, and the softness of my body will be guarded from embrace by each button, hook, and lace. For the man who should loose me is dead, fighting with the Duke in Flanders in a pattern called a war. Christ, what are patterns for? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Pipes, Onset, by Joseph Lee, Lieutenant. Read for LibriVox.org by Joseph Finkberg. Somme, September 1916. Dedicated to Major Angus McGilvery. The cry is in my ear, the sight is in my eye. This is the dawning of the day that shall see me die. What is the piper playing that battles in my blood? Winds in it, waves in it, waters at the flood. Sadness in it, madness in it, weeping, mists and rain. What is the piper playing that beats within my brain? Sobbing and throbbing like a soul's unrest, I drink his maddening music in as milk at my mother's breast. Flame in it, fame in it, love and all desire. The clean hills, the clear rills, the smouldering peat fire. Glances sweet, dancing feet, beating on the floor. Maidens fair, comrades rare, I shall meet no more. The cry is in my ear, the sight is in my eye. This is the morning of the day that shall see me die. What is the piper playing that surges in my blood? The soft breeze in pine trees, the hawthorn i' the bud, the lone tarn, the golden barn, fields of waving grain. What is the piper playing that beats within my brain? Red war screams from its reeds, and in the thrumming drones there lurks the lapping of men's blood, and sobs and dying groans. Night in it, fight in it, wraiths of stricken men, ghosts of ancient clansmen sweeping down the glen. Life in it, strife in it, whisperings, it is well, if you bear a foeman down right to the reddest hell. What is the piper playing? For now I may not hear. The glamour comes across my soul, and the cry is in my ear. End of The Pipes, Onset. This recording is in the public domain. The Purple Raven by Maurice Switzer. Read for LibriVox.org by Joseph Finkberg. Being an attempt to brighten the sombre old fowl of ancient lore, by the addition of a little local colour, a sort of nocturne involving a bird and a battle. Once upon a midnight dreary, in a hamlet on the Erie, a benighted show disbanded, for the ghost would walk no more. Sadly down and out I landed in the village tavern, stranded, with a wardrobe second-handed, in my pocket pennies 4, with a fraction of a nickel in my wallet, pennies 4, just that much and nothing more. In my hall room I reflected, growing gloomy and dejected, on the far-away Rialto with its haunts that I adore. There in sadness I sat dreaming of the lights on Broadway gleaming, of the happy faces beaming, and the city's mighty roar. Dreaming of the distant city and its mad nocturnal roar. I was sad and sick and sore. Shades of Thespis, I, MacBarrett, stranded in a very garret. I, Horatio MacBarrett, who in palmy days of yore the whole public press had lauded, and the people had applauded. I, ovations had accorded, that the roof asunder tore. Such applause as split the rafters and the dome asunder tore. All of that and something more. Then I cried, is this the ending of a genius great, transcending? Oh, relentless fate unbending, give me answer, I implore. Thus the fickle dame invoking, a dill pickle I sat smoking, and the fumes of which were choking, it was rotten to the core. 'Twas a property cigar, nameless, punk to very core, made of cabbage, nothing more. Thus in pain I cogitated on that enterprise ill-fated, wildly billed with flaring posters, 3-sheet 8 and 24, as a monster presentation with a cast of reputation, meaning me. Its appellation was, Why Maisie Quit the Store. and by dint of iron nerve and brazen front I played the store, only that and nothing more. Would my eminence diminish till at last my abject finish was to pose in moving pictures as perhaps a matador, or some figure less exalted, some harlequin assaulted, madly chased, lassoed, and halted by some burly stevedore. I could see my form upon the screen beneath the stevedore, oozing sweat from every pore. Here the need of dough, however, made me sit up and endeavour to fling aside these reveries that so heavy on me bore. It was up to me to borrow or to beat it on the morrow, so I realized in sorrow as I paced my chamber floor. I saw beat it, beg or borrow, written on the chamber floor, only that and nothing more. Oh, for one I could politely touch for 10. 'Twas useless really, in advance I knew the answer to a touch, 'tis ancient law. Then as prospects looked more dreary, and I sat despondent weary, I heard someone singing, dearie, 'twas the ingenue Lenore. Ah, her voice just like the whistle on the eyrie had Lenore, like a siren, only more. Dwelt on Easy Street this lady, on the favoured side called Shady, but no mummer knew the angel who financed the fair Lenore. Unto her my faith I'd anchor, she'd consent to be my banker, or by all the gods I'd spank her. This most solemnly I swore, as she presently stood posing at my door. That much I swore, she had plenty and some more. Quite ingenuous and easy, after fashion Japanesey, she declined the chair I offered and sat down upon the floor. There she squatted on the matting and kept vacuously chatting, while I lied without the batting of an eyelid, as I swore. She possessed a voice the like of which was never heard before, outside madhouse, ne'er before. Here, right skilfully, I pleaded for the 10 spot that I needed, and she readily assented, as I'd guessed some time before. Then there came a sound perplexing at the moment of annexing that fair 10 spot. This was vexing, someone knocking at the door. 'Twas some butter in, unwelcome, knocking at my chamber door. It was sickening, nothing more. This is certainly distressing, I remarked, myself addressing. A most unwelcome visitor come to thwart me, so I swore. Still, a calm demeanour feigning, I stalked off uncomplaining, yet with little heart remaining, and I opened wide the door. But the odour of the kitchen floated through the open door. Only that and nothing more. I was probably mistaken, by the wind the door was shaken. Said I, glad indeed no visitor was come to scare Lenore. But I scarcely was reseated ere the rapping was repeated. Then again I was defeated. I, when just about to score, then I raced across the floor. Quick, I flung aside the shutter, when without a flirt or flutter, a curious purple raven did into the chamber soar, and I watched it much astounded, really speechless and dumbfounded, calmly circle twice around it, then alight on Theodore, calmly land upon a pallid plaster bust of Theodore, worth a quarter, hardly more. Said the fair Lenore, arising, all a tremble, "How surprising!" Here her confidence and courage I proceeded to restore. I remarked that in New Haven they produce that brand of raven, but in truth so queer a craven I had heard of ne'er before. Such a curious purple raven I had heard of ne'er before. He sat brooding, nothing more. Howsoever I fell musing, 'twas ridiculous refusing to harbour this queer prodigy from some unknown distant shore. I could sell him on the morrow, happy thought, and now to borrow 10. Quite listless sat the raven on the bust of Theodore, scarcely blinked, just sat in silence on the bust of Theodore, half awake and nothing more. I had courage now in plenty, so I raised the touch to 20, and Leonore, she took it calmly, simply nodded, nothing more. But I saw the raven blinking, rather insolently winking, till I couldn't keep from thinking he was tipping off Lenore. But reflecting on her future, unobservant sat Lenore. Here I brought her to once more. Said she, "Surely in a minute, just you wait till I unpin it." and then digging up a wad she soon peeled off one golden score. In the very act of handling, as I reached to make a landing, she quite floored me by demanding, "Say, when will you this restore? I would like to know for certain when this 20 you'll restore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." How I trembled twixt vexation, rage, surprise, exasperation. Oh, was ever man confounded by a bird like this before? Cried I, "Thing of evil, learned in the devil's arts, go learn it. Beast, when said you I'd return it?" Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Thus the wretched fowl reiterated calmly, "Nevermore, only that and nothing more." Said Lenore, "How very funny. I think I'll keep my money. I believe that bird's a hoodoo. He's pursuing us. Oh, Lord." Round the wad her fingers tightened, and her rosy face grew whitened, as she stumbled, badly frightened, towards the open chamber door. And she never stopped a minute when she reached the open door. Simply beat it, nothing more. As she left, my hope departed, and I stood there broken-hearted, gazing blankly at the darkened hall beyond the chamber door. "She'll return again," I muttered, but the words were scarcely uttered, when the raven croaked and sputtered his portentous "Nevermore." Just to mock me in my sorrow, he kept croaking "Nevermore" from his perch on Theodore. Out of my stupor then I started, for this taunt a sting imparted, that unloosened my store of cuss-words, and a stream I did outpour, screaming, "Demon! Fiend! You craven of a blabbing, prating raven! If from hell or from New Haven, get thee out of my chamber door." Here I flung a pitcher at him, hit and shattered Theodore. Flew the raven to the floor. There he grew above the table like the giant rock of fable. Then he grabbed me by the collar with a yank that hurt me sore. Next he clawed me, bit and poked me, stood me off again and soaked me, jerked me back again and choked me, till I sank upon the floor. Till all consciousness departed, and I swooned upon the floor. 'Twas my finish, nothing more. I awoke. The sun was streaming through the casement. Was I dreaming? Was this silken couch I lay on an illusion, nothing more? Were these tapestries and drapings all around me mental fakings, merely visionary shapings that a subtle likeness bore? Yes, a strange familiar likeness to environments of yore. Was I smoking? Nothing more? No, ye gods and little fishes, yon debris of bottles, dishes, those cigars and cigarette butts, all the chamber scattered o'er. Too quick consciousness restore me. Then I knew, and then I swore me, with the raven still before me, I'd drink soda evermore. And whene'er the tempter lures me, bids me hit it up once more, half his soda, maybe more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Reconciliation by Carolyn A. Mason. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. If thou wert lying cold and still and white in death's embraces, O mine enemy, I think that if I came and looked on thee, I should forgive, that something in the sight of thy still face would conquer me by right of death's sad impotence, and I should see how pitiful a thing it is to be at feud with aught that's mortal. So to-night my soul, unfurling her white flag of peace, forestalling that dread hour when we may meet, the dead face and the living, fain would cry across the years, "Oh, let our warfare cease! Life is so short, and hatred is not sweet. Let there be peace between us ere we die." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Seven Selves by Khalil Gibran, read for LibriVox.org by TechSavvy. www.techsavvy.wordpress.com. The Seven Selves. In the stillest hour of the night, as I lay half asleep, my seven selves sat together and thus conversed in whisper. First Self. Here, in this madman, I have dwelt all these years, with naught to do but renew his pain by day and recreate his sorrow by night. I can bear my fate no longer, and now I rebel. Second Self. Yours is a better lot than mine, brother, for it is given to me to be this madman's joyous self. I laugh his laughter and sing his happy hours, and with thrice winged feet I dance his brighter thoughts. It is I that would rebel against my weary existence. Third Self. And what of me, the love-ridden self, the flaming brand of wild passion and fantastic desires? It is I, the love-sick self, who would rebel against this madman. Fourth Self. I, amongst you all, am the most miserable, for naught was given me but odious hatred and destructive loathing. It is I, the tempest-like self, the one born in the black caves of hell, who would protest against serving this madman. Fifth Self. Nay, it is I, the thinking self, the fanciful self, the self of hunger and thirst, the one doomed to wander without rest in search of unknown things and things not yet created. It is I, not you, who would rebel. Sixth Self. And I, the working self, the pitiful laborer, who with patient hands and longing eyes fashion the days into images and give the formless elements new and eternal forms, it is I, the solitary one, who would rebel against this restless madman. Seventh Self. How strange that you all would rebel against this man, because each and every one of you has a preordained fate to fulfill. Ah, could I be but like one of you, a self with a determined lot! But I have none. I am the do-nothing self, the one who sits in the dumb, empty nowhere and nowhen, while you're busy recreating life. Is it you or I, neighbors, who should rebel? When the seventh self thus spake, the other six selves looked with pity upon him, but said nothing more, and as the night grew deeper, one after the other went to sleep enfolded with a new and happy submission. But the seventh self remained watching and gazing at nothingness, which is behind all things. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Splendid Shilling, a poem in imitation of Milton, by John Phillips, read for LibriVox by Abe Nemon. Sing, heavenly muse, things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. A shilling, breeches, and chimeras dire. Happy the man who, void of cares and strife, in silken or in leathern purse retains a splendid shilling. He nor hears with pain new oysters cried, nor sighs for cheerful ale, but with his friends, when nightly mists arise, to Juniper's magpie or town hall repairs, where, mindful of the nymph, whose wanton eye transfixed his soul, and kindled amorous flames, Chloe or Phyllis, he each circling glass wisheth her health, and joy, and equal love. Meanwhile he smokes, and laughs at merry tale, or pun ambiguous, or conundrum quaint. But I, whom griping penury surrounds, and hunger sure attendant upon want, with scanty offals and small acid tiff, wretched repast, my meagre corpse sustain. Then solitary walk, or doze at home in garret vile, and with a warming puff regal chilled fingers, or from tube as black as winter chimney, or well-polished jet, exhale mundungus, ill-perfuming scent. Not blacker tube, nor of shorter size, smokes Cambro Britain, versed in pedigree, sprung from Cadwallader and Arthur, kings full famous in romantic tale, when he o'er many a craggy hill and barren cliff, over a cargo of famed Seastrian cheese, high overshadowing rides, with a design to vend his wares, or at the Arvonian mart, or Maradunum, or the ancient town eclipsed Brachinia, or where Vaga's stream encircles Arconium, faithful soil, whence flow nectareous wines that may well vie with Massic, Seton, or renowned Falern. Thus, while my joyless minutes tedious flow, with looks demure and silent pace, a dun, horrible monster, hated by gods and men, to my aerial citadel ascends, with vocal hail thrice thundering at my gate, with hideous accent thrice he calls. I know the voice ill-boding and the solemn sound. What should I do, or whither turn? Amazed, confounded, to the dark recess I fly of wood-hole. Straight my bristling hairs erect through sudden fear, a chilly sweat bedews my shuddering limbs, and, wonderful to tell, my tongue forgets her faculty of speech. So horrible he seems, his faded brow entrenched with many a frown, and conic beard, and spreading band, admired by modern saints, disastrous acts forebode. In his right hand, long scrolls of paper solemnly he waves, with characters and figures dire inscribed, grievous to mortal eyes. Ye gods, avert such plagues from righteous men. Behind him stalks another monster, not unlike himself, sullen of aspect, by the vulgar called a catchpole, whose polluted hands the gods with force incredible and magic charms erst have undued. If he his ample palm should haply on ill-fated shoulder lay of debtor, straight his body to the touch obsequious, as whilom knights were wont, to some enchanted castle is conveyed, where gates impregnable and coercive chains endurance strict detain him, till in form of money Pallas sets the captive free. Beware, ye debtors, when ye walk beware, be circumspect, oft with insidious ken this caitiff eyes your steps aloof, and oft lies perdu in a nook or gloomy cave, prompt to enchant some inadvertent wretch with his unhallowed touch. So, poets sing, Grimalkin to domestic vermin sworn an everlasting foe, with watchful eye lies nightly brooding o'er the chinky gap, pretending her fell claws to thoughtless mice sure ruin. So her disemboweled web Arachne in a hall or kitchen spreads, obvious to vagrant flies. She secret stands within her woven cell. The humming prey, regardless of their fate, rush on the toils inextricable, nor will aught avail their arts, or arms, or shapes of lovely hue. The wasp insidious and the brazzing drone, and butterfly proud of expanded wings, distinct with gold, entangled in her snares, useless resistance make. With eager strides she towering flies to her expected spoils. Then, with envenomed jaws, the vital blood drinks of reluctant foes, and to her cave their bulky carcasses triumphant drags. So pass my days. But when the nocturnal shades this world envelop, and the inclement air persuades men to repel benumbing frosts with pleasant wines and crackling blaze of wood, me lonely sitting, nor the glimmering light of make-weight candle, nor the joyous talk of loving friend delights, distressed, forlorn amidst the horrors of the tedious night, darkling I sigh, and feed with dismal thoughts my anxious mind, or sometimes mournful verse indite, and sing of groves and myrtle shades, or desperate lady near a purling stream, or lover pendant on a willow tree. Meanwhile I labour with eternal draught, and restless wish and rave. My parched throat finds no relief, nor heavy eyes repose. But if a slumber haply does invade my weary limbs, my fancies still awake, thoughtful of drink, and eager in a dream tipples imaginary pots of ale in vain. Awake I find the settled thirst still gnawing, and the pleasant phantom curse. Thus do I live from pleasure quite debarred, nor taste the fruits of that sun's genial rays mature, John apple, nor the downy peach, nor walnut in a rough furrowed coat secure, nor medlar fruit, delicious in decay. Afflictions great, yet greater still remain. My galligaskins that have long withstood the winter's fury, and encroaching frosts by time subdued, what will not time subdue? A horrid chasm disclose, with orifice wide, discontinuous, at which the winds Eurus and Auster, and the dreadful force of Boreas that conceals the Cronian waves, tumultuous enter with dire chilling blasts, portending agues. Thus a well-fraught ship long failed secure, or through the Aegean deep, or the Ionian, till cruising near the Lilybaean shore, with hideous crush on Scylla or Charybdis, dangerous rocks she strikes rebounding, whence the shattered oak, so fierce a rock unable to withstand, admits the sea. In at the gaping side the crowding waves gush with impetuous rage, resistless, overwhelming. Horrors seize the mariners, death in their eyes appears. They stare, they lave, they pump, they swear, they pray. Vain efforts, still the battering waves rush in implacable, till deluged by the foam, the ship sinks foundering in the vast abyss. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Tennessee by Francis Brooks. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. In Tennessee the dogwood tree blossoms tonight. Toward the sea the Cumberland makes melody. In Tennessee. And Morgan mounts his steed once more. In phantom file his troopers pour along. The stars hear once again the song of Morgan and his men. In Tennessee the slave is free tonight, but waking he can see the raiders, hears them tremblingly. In Tennessee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Poet, 1,000 Years Hence, by James Elroy Flecker. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy, Perth, Western Australia. I who am dead 1,000 years, and wrote this sweet archaic song, send you my words for messengers, the way I shall not pass along. I care not if you bridge the seas, or ride secure the cruel sky, or build consummate palaces of metal or of masonry. But have you wine and music still, and statues and a bright-eyed love, and foolish thoughts of good and ill, and prayers to them who sit above? How shall we conquer? Like a wind that falls at eve our fancies blow, and old Moeanides the blind said it 3,000 years ago. O friend, unseen, unborn, unknown, student of our sweet English tongue, read out my words at night, alone. I was a poet. I was young. Since I can never see your face, and never shake you by the hand, I send my soul through time and space to greet you. You will understand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Too Late by John Hay. Read for LibriVox.org by Brett Hirsch. Had we but met in other days, had we but loved in other ways, another light and hope had shone on your life and my own. In sweet but hopeless reveries I fancy how your wistful eyes had saved me, had I known their power, in fate's imperious hour. How loving you, beloved of God, and following you, the path I trod had led me, through your love and prayers, to God's love unawares. And how our beings, joined as one, had passed through checkered shade and sun, until the earth our lives had given, with little change, to heaven. God knows why this was not to be. You bloomed from childhood far from me, the sunshine of the favored place that knew your youth and grace. And when your eyes, so fair and free, in fearless beauty beamed on me, I knew the fatal die was thrown, my choice in life was gone. And still with wild and tender art your child love touched my torpid heart, gilding the blackness where it fell, like sunlight over hell. In vain my choice was gone. Better to struggle on alone than blot your pure life's blameless shine with cloudy stains of mine. A vague regret, a troubled prayer, and then the future vast and fair will tempt your young and eager eyes with all its glad surprise. And I shall watch you, safe and far, as some late traveler eyes a star wheeling beyond his desert sands to gladden happier lands. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Voyage by Carolyn A. Mason. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. Whichever way the wind doth blow, some heart is glad to have it so. Then blow it east or blow it west, the wind that blows, that wind is best. My little craft sails not alone. 1,000 fleets from every zone are out upon 1,000 seas, and what for me were favoring breeze might dash another with the shock of doom upon some hidden rock. And so I do not dare to pray for winds to waft me on my way, but leave it to a higher will to stay or speed me, trusting still that all is well, and sure that he who launched my bark will sail with me through storm and calm, and will not fail, whatever breezes may prevail, to land me, every peril past, within his sheltering heaven at last. Then whatsoever wind doth blow, my heart is glad to have it so. And blow it east or blow it west, the wind that blows, that wind is best. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.